Hello everybody, I am Ben from Team Panic, and today we're going to be looking at Dr. Criminal, my little hex bug turned flea weight. Now, this is going to be a slightly different video because it's actually kind of two videos in one. It's an update to Dr. Criminal and it's also a fight report. The thing is, there wasn't quite enough to cover both as their own separate videos, so I've kind of just mash them all together. Because yeah, the last time you saw Dr. Criminal, it kind of worked, but the weapon didn't really spin up, and also it didn't have its nice shiny new metal blade. The metal blade I did make off camera entirely, but getting the rest of everything set up I did on camera. I will say I do get a little bit frustrated with Dr. Criminal in this video, so just be warned that the first part of this video there is a bit of frustration in the stuff that I am doing. Having said that, I will also throw links to the fights or timestamps for the fights in the comments or in the description down below. So if all you care about is Dr. Criminal's fights, you can 100% go ahead and jump directly to those. With that out of the way, let's jump into the stuff I filmed pre-event. In the time since that video, I have changed the motor over, so we now have a brand new motor. I've also cut up the ruler and attached it in place here. So we actually have a fully dangerous 75 gram, in actual fact lighter than that, is a 67 gram at the moment. So I have 5 and a bit grams or 6 and a bit grams, something like that, maybe 8 grams to play with. So I could add more armor to it, or I could add a bigger weapon to it. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to test to make sure that the weapon actually does things. So it does scrape from time to time on the bottom of the robot, but that is just lettering and things on the actual battery door of the hex bug. Well, that was disappointing, basically. So it still doesn't spin up, despite the fact that the blade spins really, really freely now, and that is a brand new motor. So something else is going on. I'm not sure if it's the receiver, if it's the ESC that I'm running this on, or if it's the battery. The battery might not be able to give out enough juice. It might be just a bad battery, and it just can't do the amp draw needed to spin up any kind of weapon on the front of this thing. So what I'm actually going to try and do is I'm just going to try and jam the 2S battery in here, which is way overkill for what we need. But if I can jam the 2S battery in here, we might be able to get the thing actually spinning, maybe, hopefully. That's annoying. So battery power, not doing it. Looks like it might actually be the ESC or the solder joints to the ESC. Maybe I've got a dry joint in there, but I've literally resoldered all of this. So it might just be the ESC. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with this. It's just not working. Since the last clip that you saw, and now it has been a day. I have done 3 separate brushless motors. I've put in 2 different ESCs. Nothing has worked. I have no idea what on earth is going on with this thing anymore. It just does not make any sense to me. It is just not working. And yeah, I can't tell you why. It's messing me up. The closest thing I can think is that it might be a battery current draw issue, because I've run the 2S battery made of these. I also did put in a regular ant weight battery as well and kind of clamped the whole thing up inside the test box and spun it in the test box, because this thing is going to be scary if I can ever get it working. But the only thing that worked was having the 2S battery on it, and even then it was only just working. Like, it still jittered a whole lot, and it still needed like precise throttle control to get it to the right spot to get it to actually spin up in the first place. It just did not want to do anything this whole time. It's been a huge, huge, huge pain. So I am giving up. And we're going to put the Witch Doctor blade back in it. We're going to rebuild this thing. We're going to run the Witch Doctor blade on a brush motor through the Malinky ESC. That's it. That's my story. That's what we're doing because... So, yeah, it did not go very well. I had a lot of things that I was working on all at the same time, and Dr. Criminal having so many issues just was very, very demotivating and not a lot of fun, realistically. Yeah, so I was ready to throw in the towel and basically call that video there. In the end, what actually ended up happening is I talked to Steve, a good friend of mine and one of the people who I fight against quite often, and he said that he had some slightly taller motors that were actually a lower KV, so I was kind of hopeful that maybe running that, I could actually get the weapon to spin up at the event. But what that meant is I took Dr. Criminal to the event knowing that the weapon didn't spin up at all and that I would have to solder in a new weapon motor when I got there. So I did that. I got there and I got the weapon motor in, and then I tried to spin it up. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. There you go. It spun up! Yes! But unfortunately, the news is not great from there, because while it did indeed spin up in the test box there, and I got quite surprised for a second when I turned the weapon off, put it back in the test, turned the weapon off, recentered the camera, turned the weapon back on again. It didn't spin back up. Yeah, so I basically went into the 2 flea fights that I had at the event because it wasn't really a scheduled tournament. There was only me and Steve, actually. Steve is the owner of the only other 2 flea weights in our division or in our club. So yeah, I was fighting Dr. Criminal against both of his flea weights. Yeah, and we just did that kind of on the side as not really part of a tournament or anything because there wasn't enough robots there to do that. So this is how it went in its 2 fights. The first fight up was against Pocket Knife, a thwack bot that uses, I think they're like tiny little quad motors as the drive system. Whoops, hang on. Let me try and get the spinner up in speed. Come on!
Ooh,
spinner!
That's a bit funky, that's not great.
Does the pocket knife actually do things?
No, it was meant to have a metal blade, but I ran out of time. It's got weight for it, it's only 60 something grams.
If I could get the spinner to actually go, that would be real nice.
I could actually whack again at the things.
What, yours won't whack again?
Doesn't want to go.
There's a pig going down apparently.
They're going.
Watch out for that. Somebody's had to time the match for us.
Go down the hole!
I see what the problem is.
What?
One of the gears has come off. Oh.
So unfortunately for Steve, in that fight he actually snapped the tooth on one of the tiny little gears in that quad flight system setup that he had going on, which I'm not wholly surprised about. Those things are a little bit on the flimsy side, which is why I haven't used them in my flea weights, but he gave them a try and unfortunately it didn't work out. So we managed to get him in the pit, but obviously no weapon, which is becoming a recurring problem for Dr. Criminal, and I don't know why, and it's getting me. Anyway, After that fight, we also had a fight against Flea in Terror, which is, again, Steve's flea weight. And this one, I think, is driven by one of your sons, and it's actually a little plastic vert. I think he said he has enough weight in it to put a metal blade on. He just hasn't had the time to sit down and actually carefully craft a metal balanced blade to go in it.
1, go!
Printed polycarbonate weapon. Oh, weapon's not even trying anymore. That's good. My weight distribution's
Hands off, guys. Back up for a sec.
Well, somebody's lost a screw. Oh, I think that's out of my weapon, actually. Might be why it's not spinning anymore. Come on, the weapon is so close. It's just refusing. Back up a bit.
Ram in.
No, the weapon's just dead. I got it once today and it's just refused ever since. I also have no pushing power, so...
What's your bot's name, Steve?
Flea in Terror.
Flea in Terror.
Well, it's doing the complete opposite of that.
No, it's making other people flee in Terror, that's the whole point.
Yeah, but still.
I can see it.
I can see
it.
I can see it playing in terror.
I can see other people doing things. It's scary.
I need to set my front end so I don't just... I might be stuck.
Is that a countdown? No?
No, it doesn't need it.
So again, no weapon, and this time he had more pushing power than us, so we got jammed into the pit. It was a close one though. We were getting close to the end of that fight before we got jammed into the pit. But look, 1-1 with no working weapon, I'm pretty happy with that on the whole. I'm not too unhappy. So what's next for Dr. Criminal? Well, I did, before filming this video, I did a quick little tester that I didn't film where instead of having a single 1S battery in there or the 2S custom pack I built, I actually built a double battery 1S pack. So I put the two of them in parallel, which means that they've got more current that they can give out, and they've also got a higher milliamp hour rating on them. So I gave that a shot because I thought that it might be the case that the weapon spin up was to do with that. I threw it in the text box just before starting to film this video, and I still got stuttering. It does get up to speed sometimes. If I get the throttle like over halfway and leave it there for a minute or so, or not even, it's like 5 seconds or so, it will stutter around for a little bit. As long as the floor is flat, it will stutter around for a little bit, and then it will finally get up to speed and it will actually spin up and do the thing. But it's very, very, very unreliable in that sense. So yeah, I'm going to redo the whole thing, basically. None of this worked particularly well. The hex bug, while it seemed like a good idea at the time, and it did provide a nice, easy drive system to get off the ground, the hex bugs aren't designed for somebody to be opening and closing them constantly. So what I've found is that by doing that, I've actually weakened the lid, and when the lid gets weakened, some of the gears slip out of position. So if you knew what you were doing, unlike me, and did a hex bug conversion for the very first time, undid everything once, fitted all your key components into it, jammed it all back together once, and that was it, you would have a very decent combat robot out of a Hexbug flea weight conversion. But because I have taken this thing apart and put it back together so many times, it's starting to fatigue and wear down. So I will probably go back and do another Hexbug flea weight conversion at some point, and now that I have a little bit of experience with it, it will go a lot smoother. But yeah, this one at the moment, I'm about ready to call it, realistically. I think Dr. Criminal is now done. It's just, I put too much time into it for it to work poorly. Very, very poorly. I have another idea for a crazy kind of flea weight. I have a very silly idea for a flea weight. So I'm going to do a bit more work off camera about flea weights, see if I can find some better motors for flea weights. And yeah, hopefully we'll be back at some point in the next couple of months with a brand new flea weight, this time a little bit sillier. Anyway, this has been a weird video. I hope you guys have enjoyed that one, and I will see you in the next video.